I hate you, freakachu. I've spent ridiculous amount of time finding clams and crafting them into bait, tossed in ludicrous bait, thrown in my line to catch crawfish after frog after goldfish, and never to find the elusive Ranchu Goldfish, the freaky looking one. I'm out to save you this heartache to catch your very own too if you haven't already. By the end of this video, you won't be pondering anymore. I couldn't resist the pun. The Ranchu Goldfish is a tricky one. It's only available in ponds and only available between the awkward hours of 9 AM to 4 PM, which is when the majority of us are at school or at work. Yes, it's available through the year, but it's been plaguing me and I just had to catch it. And unlike other videos, I've caught 2 in an hour. The problem with the Ranchu is that it spawns much less frequently, and rightly so. It's worth 4,500 bells versus the more common frog and crawfish. One way to increase your chances is to use bait. Note here, I'm stupidly rebaiting before I realized that the Ranchu is exactly this size, which is why I'm making this video. I'll never know if these 3 I didn't try for could have been the one that I needed, but then maybe I wouldn't have made this video. This is the size I thought the Ranchu was, which after all is the size of a goldfish. Here's the size that you're looking for. It's about the size of the bobble. Of course, there is one bigger size, which is not the one you're after. The tiny shadows will get you things like the killifish coming in at around 300 bells. Then there's the goldfish and pop-eyed goldfish, which weigh in at 1,300 bells. The size you're after is the size of the frog, which is merely 120 bells. The other one that's the same size is the crawfish, which is 200. So if you're hunting for this size, this is the one you want. And in case you're curious on the bigger large shadows, they are the carp, which brings you in 300 bells, but don't ignore these shadows as they might get you a giant snakehead, giving you a very reasonable 5,500 bells. Here are all the fish shadows side by side, which is the tiny one, which you don't want, the middle one, which is the one you do want, and the large one, which you can pick and choose whether or not you fish for them. But this is the size we want. Once you unlock terraforming, you're able to make your own man-made ponds, which is, from my experience, needs to be at least 4 squares wide and 4 squares deep. To save you crafting the bait, I recommend making a few of these ponds a few screens away to allow you to work to each pond one at a time. If you find yourself not getting any fish to spawn, just head inside and come back out again. This should spawn off a new fish, but in this case it's spawned off a little one which is not the size we want. This is the one we're after, and you can work between all the ponds that you have around the place to spawn the one that you need. The best way to find the Ranchu, particularly if you haven't yet got the 3-star island to unlock terraforming, is to go on a mystery flight between the hours of 9 AM and 4 PM. You're looking for an island that has a pond. There are some islands that don't, so keep trying again until you find one that does. And if you ever find this one, stay here until you fill your pockets. This one's a beauty. What's so great about these islands, I hear you ask? Well, these are small and they often have excessive critter spawn rate. That is, they're designed to have plenty of wildlife, so once one disappears, another one takes its place. I usually scare off the fish by running past them if they're close enough to the water edge. Scare away any bugs that are scareable like cicadas and stink bugs. Sometimes you might even catch flying critters like butterflies, and other times you might have to climb up to the cliffs to scare off fish and bugs in the upper areas of the island. If you want to get fancy, here's another few scaring methods. The pole vault to scare them as you vault over them to get to the other riverbank, and here's a cheeky one, use the slingshot to scare them. Another way I like to use is the selective scare technique. This doesn't affect the other fish in the water, so you get the fish's attention and then pull out your rod and it'll disappear. So once you scare off the unwanted critters with any of these methods, go back to the body of water that you care about, and you might be surprised to find not just one, but multiple of what could be the fish you're after. If you can afford to stay on the island past the Ranchu active time, make the most of it, since this island design has a pond, a river, and a clifftop river. You could catch yourself the Dorado, which is worth a whopping 15,000 bells each, the Arowana or the Arapaima, both of which fetch 10,000 each. You could go home with some serious haul with bells. For more tips on the best way to make bells, I highly recommend this video next. Do ponder joining AG Nation.